There are moments that split your life into before and after. Moments when silence becomes louder than words. When a smile masks 1,000 unanswered questions and the world keeps moving, even though yours has stopped. Grief. It comes without warning, rewriting everything you thought you knew about strength, love, and healing. But what if we stopped running from it? What if we listened, really listened to the stories, the ache, the wisdom? Welcome to Open Hearts, a space for raw truth, quiet strength, and the kind of conversations that remind us we are not alone. This is where healing begins. This is where hearts speak.
Well, this is yet another episode of the Open Hands podcast. I don't know why I'm smiling, but I feel like you guys miss me because it's been a minute. And we're back. Of course, conversations where we get to unpack the feelings that we do not know what to do with. And I said to myself, every single time I have to have someone seated back here in the studio, is going to be someone who resonates with that emotion and can speak to you or meet you at levels that you can pretty much understand. And I've got one of my girls seated right here. And the title of this episode is going to be Unpack It because this lady right here does very well with covering whatever it is she's feeling. But yes, I have Lizzie Will. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was just trying to process everything you said. So like, okay, let me say hi. Hi. Hi girl.
Hi.
I'm awesome. Thank you. Yeah, let's do this.
What should we start with? Your mom, your job? Because I know there's a lot of situations that have put you in the position where you have greased
Mhm,
people genuinely to. But
mhm.
should we start? Let's start.
I think we should start with mom.
Tell me about that.
Okay. So, first of all, grief is something that I think a lot of people can resonate with, and I think a lot of people, have experienced in their own way. And when it's the loss of a loved one, it's even harder, right? And I think it as interesting as it is, it's something that you do not expect would happen to you. It's funny, but it just never crosses your mind that you're going to lose a loved one, at least not as early as you've lost them, because we all pray to get to old age and grow older and stuff like that. So, but when it happens at a time when they're young, especially if it's a parent, it's kind of hard. So this was in 2019. That was the year that I lost my mom, but she had been ill for years. So she had had an illness or an ailment that kind of got her to take in a lot of drugs. So she was basically living on drugs because she wanted to live with less pain. And so the side effect of that was that the drugs started affecting her health. And so she started deteriorating and all of that. And I don't want to talk about, how the Nigerian medical system failed us and all of that. But yeah, that was always the root of it. And I remember her being ill. So she had the first sign of stroke. We didn't know what stroke was. We'd never um, experienced it or even know what it looks like if somebody is experiencing stroke. So when it happened, we just rushed her to the hospital. And I think her BP was high. And we got her to the hospital, and the doctor was supposed to crash her BP gradually, but he did it instantaneously and gave her like an overdose. And that kind of, led to the stroke and all of the other things. In fact, that was where the spiral started. So she just became ill and spent a lot of time in the hospital and became bedridden. So we had to take care of her in that period where she was ill. But I think that also I had hoped she was going to get better because you've also seen people who have experienced things like this and they will tell you, oh, the person recovered. But in her case, the stroke happened 3 times. And that was very, 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 I would really say that the experience was very confusing for us. I think at that time we weren't living in an age where knowledge is at your fingertips. You can easily go on TikTok and find out stuff. It was just you had to browse, and you had to even know that this was a thing for you to even start browsing about it. So there was just a lot of us not understanding what she was going through. But at the end of the day, I will never forget that morning. That it was a rainy morning, was a drizzly morning, and I had seen her the day before. She was just not looking very okay. But then again, I thought she would be fine after some days. And then I remember that morning my sister came to my room and she woke me up and she told me that my mom had gone. So it wasn't like I was somewhere and they called me or whatever. I was right there in the house. And then we went to the room and then we took her to the hospital and then it was all confirmed. And I think for me, one of the most jarring um what's the word memory that I have of that period was just seeing her, because then before they put her in the morgue, they would just lay the person on the floor and it was just it's like we're nothing. Someone who means the entire world to you is all of a sudden seems like they are nothing. They're just another body that they're going to put in the morgue. And I think just standing there, because I was standing outside while my dad and my sister were doing the inquiries and trying to sort it all out, and the door was a bit open and I could just see her there, and it's like, can't you just open your eyes and stand up and get out of here? But nothing prepares you for losing a mother. I'm going to say that again. Nothing prepares you for losing a mother. It's different from losing a father. It doesn't make it any less or more, but nothing just prepares you for that particular experience, because you have a bond with this person that is beyond, just a physical connection. And so it was very, very devastating for me, that period, to just process it all. I went through the different stages of grief, the denial, the confusion, the anger, the acceptance eventually that she was gone. And mm, again, you had once said that nobody teaches you how to grieve. Sometimes we are all grieving people who are trying to figure it all out and figure out how to process the thoughts and everything that we're feeling per time. And so for me, it was just me. I wouldn't say the actual grief started at that time. I would say that I cried like everybody else and went through the pain of losing her like everybody else. But years down the line, there was something that happened to me that I did not even know was a thing and that people who are grieving actually experience, which is the fact that your subconscious does not understand that this person has gone. So you are constantly plagued with dream scenarios where they're alive. So in my dream, she was always, so it's like my mind knows she's no more, but in my dream she's alive. And so no, not today, that stopped like last year. And so every time that I would see her in the dream, it'd be like, okay, you're not supposed to be here, but you're here. How is that possible? But I'm glad you're here. So that was always what the experience was. And there were a lot of times I would wake up crying, like with so much pain in my heart. It's not that I thought about her the day before. It's not that I dreamt about her, but just when I'm about to wake up, I find myself in like deep sorrow and just crying. And oftentimes that would even happen in my dream. I'm like crying in my dream and stuff like that. So it was something that it was still a process. I went through that process, and when it was, over, it was over. And now I'm even able to talk about it now, unlike I wasn't able to talk about it years ago without just bawling and crying and all of that. I couldn't look at her pictures. And my mom wasn't somebody who was into pictures or videos, so you don't have closure. And before she passed, she wasn't really talking, because that was also the side effect of the illness. So it's not like, oh, she said, oh, my daughter, this and that and that. There is no closure. You don't know what the last thing she would have wanted to tell you is. It's harder because, I mean, you're in the house with her. So if she could talk, she would have said something, but she couldn't talk. And I'm sure she probably wanted to say things to us, but she didn't. So there was just that. There was no closure for us. And I would look for her in her writings, in maybe things she had put down. She didn't write things about herself, maybe things about August meeting and all those things, or all of this women group that she was a part of. But so it was just that, trying to find the closure and the peace, make peace with it. and there wasn't anything. And so at the end of the day, you learn to live with it. It doesn't leave you, it doesn't go away, it stays right there with you. And so being able to wake up every day and just keep moving on and keep facing each day as it comes is not because you have finally forgotten your lost one, or you enjoying and all of that. No, it's just the fact that one, they love you so much and they wouldn't want you to be in that dark place. And two, the pain of losing them never leaves, but you learn to live with it. So it's like we're all living with that, vacuum that nothing can fill. There's literally nothing that can fill the space that your body is.
It's where you said, like, you feel guilty about how you feel. I can remember many times where I'm smiling and I'm like, am I really supposed to be smiling? I just lost my mother.
Yeah.
And you want to eat and you're like, I don't want to eat. It's like I'm discrediting the memory of that person.
Yeah.
But I think that people need to learn that life goes on. No matter how difficult it is, life must go on. Now, brings me to the very next question. We'll be sharing both our experiences, of course. At the time when my mom has, I don't even want to get started about our health system because, of course, we went to one of the hospitals and you were told, they didn't just casually say, she don't die.
Whoa.
That's what the guy.
That's why you said
Exactly. She don't die now. Like, he's not even going to take her to the hospital because at the time it was close to one of these girls. We had already gone to one of the hospitals.
yeah.
Okay, let me add that she actually went to my sister's. My sister had put to bed and normal Nigerian version, so she went there to do the removal, right? And so my sister was just 9 days after birth and having to navigate with all of them using somewhere.
Yeah.
Your Pope came to help. So she was like unsettled, rushed to one of the hospitals. It was closed down, went to another hospital, and the guy was like, take her away, she's dead. Stop that. And we went to the third hospital. And at the time when we went to the third hospital, they could pick a pulse. It was like 4, was fate. But some part of you is like, these guys could have done. If here they could kick a pulse, it means something would have been done when she was at the hospital.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on how they treat the bugs. Just
God.
sold over 300 bugs. Some already dried
Wow.
and gone. You never remain safe. I tell people, the smell of that place lasted for years. Years. I could tell this place is smelling like this place.
So yeah.
I could tell that. So that changed something. And that is, I let people go easy. Like, I hold everything in use.
Yeah.
Like, anybody who knows that about me. You can come and go, that's okay. After all, I lost my mother, the dog.
Right.
She's important too. So that was my response
Yeah.
to that. I'm not saying that's the best day to
Yeah.
but that was my response. What was yours?
Well, I think for me it was just the way that I started looking at life was that everything that happened before my mom passed was my reality, and then after she passed, my life had become a nightmare. So I would always be like, this is all a dream. This is the nightmare. The life had passed with her. And again, it wasn't the best way to think about it, but that was how I would think about it, because just there were things that I just wanted her to be a part of for me to experience. One of them is having a baby, having your mom there. One of them is getting married, and a couple of other accomplishments, So for me at the time, it just felt like I was just roaming, like I was having a terrible nightmare, and one day I was going to wake up, But at the end of the day, you just learn to live with it. You just learn to take each day as it comes, and you also learn to cherish the ones that you have around with you, because life is very fickle like that. Nobody can tell what's going to happen tomorrow. So the people that you have around you, you learn to value them and care for them. And it also made me hold my, surviving parent very close, which is my dad, very close to my heart. Like, one of the reasons why I don't want to jack my is because I don't want to leave my dad. Unless I have to go with him anyway. Because I just don't like So I would sit down and then I would imagine how, because at the time I was with my mom and my parents where we were living, and then my sister and my brother were in another state. So we had to call them on the phone. And I can imagine them going about their day, doing their thing, working or whatever. And then somebody calls you and tells you something like that. So it didn't make any difference though that I was there or that I wasn't. But for me, I felt like I was here with her in just this last minute.
So what was the positive change? Because I mean, the entire idea of this podcast is we go through this thing. It happens anyway.
Yeah.
But something came up.
Right.
What was it?
I think you learn to be strong. And you learn that when life hits you like a storm, you can keep going. And this is what I tell myself, that the worst thing that is ever going to happen to me has already happened. So what could be worse than losing my mom? So I do not think there is any experience that I equate in my life right now that is worse than that. It doesn't matter what I lose. It doesn't matter what does not come to me. It's just I've been through the worst and I survived, so I don't think there's anything that can get close to that. So it helps me manage whatever storms that come my way because I always know that the worst has passed.
I mean, these are emotions these are raw and filtered emotions. Yeah, because I don't think anybody gets to tell you how you should feel about these things. And I don't even think it's appropriate for someone to tell you, this part of the world, we're used to saying, oh, do not cry.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Your kids are looking.
I think those are just cliches. And a couple of those advices come from a lack of emotional intelligence, especially the one that sounds like, oh, you should not be crying, wipe your tears and stuff like that. I do not believe that anybody should tell anyone how to grieve. But I also know that there is something called grief therapy. And what that does for you is that it helps you to navigate those thought processes. Because in that moment, you're going through like a lot emotionally and you have all those thoughts all over the place. And that's why sometimes people spiral from grief because they were not able to process, everything all of the emotions that they were feeling at the time. And people hold things to their heart for so long. And so going through grief therapy and having, maybe if you have counselors or people who understand these things, talk to you in that grieving process, it kind of helps you navigate the thought process and helps you think about it differently than you would have if you were handling it on your own. So I think that the things that, in the cliche statements Nigerians say, like, oh, don't worry, everything will be fine, oh, it's okay, they might not really. I mean, sometimes people don't know what to say. Again, let's give grace to the people who are around you when you're grieving, because there's also the part where people just don't know what to say in that moment. They're also grieving, honestly. They're grieving your grief. They're grieving seeing you spiral and become this person that is going through this very negative experience. So a lot of people are confused. So they don't know. So they want to say what they think is right. So you hear people saying things like, don't cry, it's okay, don't cry. Or, oh, don't worry, everything will be fine. We know, but in that moment, that's the last thing on that person's mind. Yeah.
Anyways, the idea of this again is to ensure that you guys know that you're not people.
Absolutely.
And this is in death will come. You can't run away from it. You can't hide from it. But how you deal with it, it's how you interpret that emotions that you feel is what determines who you'll become afterwards.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at it as something that has taken your life and there's nothing left to it, that's exactly how it's supposed to. It's okay to feel like that for a while.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely not okay.
You can't also tell people how long they would grieve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do not stay like that. The most I can say to you is, you can't feel like that. It's okay. I validate your feelings and I'm sure she does too, because she knows exactly what it means.
Absolutely.
But I do not encourage you to stay like that.
Yeah.
Staying like that means that you allow yourself be defeated by this stage.
True.
And you're bigger at that and at that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, UC.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyways, this is about the end of this episode and more to come. Of course, we're looking at having therapies. I also add that UC is a counselor.
Thank you. I am.
Bullshit. That's it. The caption below. Please do well to catch up our episodes. Every single one of them. It promises to be amazing. Promises to be edifying. This is the Open Hearts Podcast, and this is Baba.